And while I'm on the subject of Cinderella, it brings me back. I brought up FAU and San Diego State earlier. Everybody got upset about them making the Final Four, as if it's San Diego State's fault that Brandon Miller couldn't shoot, as if it's FAU's fault that Purdue got taken out by a 16 seed. Do better if you're better, right? But anyway, so San Diego State comes into the season and they're losing Nathan Mensah and Matt Bradley. Matt Bradley was their leading scorer. They got some good transfers coming in. They have Darion Trammell coming back, and they have Lamont Butler, who you'll remember hit the big shot against Creighton in the Elite Eight to get to the Final Four. So San Diego State they're still going to be good. I think they're still win the Mountain West this year. Not sure they're going to have the March run that they had last year. But that other Cinderella, FAU, I'll see you in March. They will be back. They return everybody except for Michael Forrest. Big loss because he was their all-time school leader in three-pointers made. He was Dusty May's first recruit to FAU. I was a little concerned about FAU. Penn State came open. Notre Dame came open. Dusty May, at the very least, had his name in the Notre Dame hat, but they went and hired Michael Shrewsbury from Penn State, which led to Penn State being open. So FAU's locked and loaded. They got everybody back. There were some questions whether John L. Davis and Elijah Martin were going to throw their name into the NBA draft, but they said, no, 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 we're coming back. They both averaged about 13 and 5. They had some big moments during March Madness. Elijah Martin with the 26 and 7 against San Diego State in the Final Four, though they lost that game. John L. Davis, had the big game earlier in the tournament, 29 and 12, against FDU, who knocked off Purdue, as I mentioned earlier. So, they got Vlad Golden back. Remember the big man, who took it out on Tennessee, whooped them up and down the court, played a big game against K-State. So what made FAU special last year was they went 35 and 4. And by the way, that was more wins than anybody else had in the country last year. Anybody. More than Kansas, more than Duke, more than Carolina, more than, and I mean North Carolina, not South Carolina, more than Kentucky, so on and so forth. So FAU got into the tournament as a 9 seed based on the fact that their name is FAU. I had them as a 5 seed myself. Some aficionados out there, the Matt Norlanders and people like that of the world, had them as a 6 seed. So, we were way off, but it was because they didn't have the name recognition. A 35 and 4 Gonzaga is probably not a 9 seed, even though you would argue that they would play a tougher schedule. FAU beat Florida last year. Florida was just in a down year. They lost to Ole Miss. But then when you look at the conferences, right, when you look at Gonzaga, usually it's just St. Mary's. A couple of years ago, we had San Francisco make the tournament, the University of Bill Russell, but then their coach went to Florida. So now it's just Gonzaga and St. Mary's for the most part in the West Coast Conference. Whereas last year, you want to talk about Conference USA being a little weak, you could have that argument if you acknowledge the fact that Charlotte won the CBI, that North Texas won the NIT. And who did they beat in the NIT championship game? UAB, another team that shared the conference with FAU. Now, this year it's going to be a little tougher because now they're going to the American Athletic. But all four are coming together. So FAU's not shaking off the NIT champion and the CBI champion. They're going to be right on their heels. But what I'm looking forward to is FAU and Memphis. I think those are going to be your top 2 teams in the AAC this year. I got Memphis winning the conference. I got FAU finishing second. But, we saw how that game ended last year. The last second shot, first round matchup 8-9. Now they're going to get to play for the conference. So, Wichita State's going to be pretty good this year. I think SMU might come up this year. But for the most part, I think it's going to come down to Memphis and FAU. I think both are going to make the NCAA tournament. FAU is probably going to start out ranked in the top 12 or 15. I would probably put them around 13 or so myself. I've heard Gary Parrish have them in the top 10, and some argue they could be a top 5 team with everything that they have coming back. The most important thing, of course, being John L. Davis, Elijah Martin, Vlad Golden, Coach Dusty May. So I look forward to seeing you in March. So let me know. Do you think FAU will be back? Do they have another Final Four running them? Or was this just a 1 year thing? Are they a first round flameout? Like, review, subscribe. Let me know in the comments. Peace.